Okay, the first step in casting is to make your box and glue your piece onto it like so. Make sure that you have enough space beneath it and to either side in order so that the silicone mold can get around it properly.
So when you want to start measuring out the amount of material that you need for your silicone mold, you'll first want to put on gloves, and you're actually going to want to look at the instructional sheet that the package comes with, and that tells you the specific volume of the material itself. So that'll help you calculate how much material in terms of mass you'll need. So you're just going to essentially just open up the jar. Now it's going to have some aluminum foil here. You're going to remove that, and you're just going to gently pour it on top of the scale. Make sure that it's zeroed out, that way you know how much you're actually measuring out. You're just going to pour it until you have your desired amount. When using the material, these silicone mold material, you essentially measure 1 to 1. So the weight that you measured out on the scale for part B, you're going to want to measure out the same amount for part A. Once you have the amount of material that you're going to use, you essentially mix this up for a minute.
Now that you've got both parts measured out by mass in 1-to-1 ratio, you want to take your third mixing cup and you start by pouring one in there and then the second, and then begin to mix. Now you have to be careful because you only have 6 minutes pot life. So after 6 minutes it's going to begin to cure, and then if you leave it in there it's not going to go well. So make sure to get all your mixing done and begin pouring before 6 minutes. So once you've mixed for about 30 seconds to 1 minute, somewhere in between there, you're going to pour the material into your box. Now one thing that's important to note is that when we're pouring we don't want any overhangs, so you have to make sure we're going to pour right up to where that gear sticks out at the very tip. And when you're pouring, you want to pour into one corner the whole time to make sure that it flows evenly. So here we go. One thing that can help is notching the cup to get a more smooth pour. Alright, so once you let the mold cure, you have to spray the release agent on it. So what the release agent recommends is to mist it once, then brush it on with a little paintbrush, and then mist it one more time. You want to really make sure to get into some of the crevices. Alright, one thing we forgot to mention is to make sure that you cut at least 2 keyholes into the material so that whenever you pour the second mold in, you know which way it needs to orient itself to mesh. And in addition, you need to glue 2 rods onto it, one in order to be able to pour into and one for an air hole so that you keep any air bubbles from accumulating. So now that the second half of the mold is cured, what we're going to do is peel away the glue on the outside of the box and separate the 2 halves. So now that you've taken apart your mold and you've got the 2 parts, you need to spray a release agent on the inside before pouring your epoxy. Once you've sprayed once, you need to take a brush and just make sure you get into the crevices and into the holes, and then you're going to spray one more time.
Now that you have your mold in your box again, just to keep it together, you're going to want to start getting the other material, which is the epoxy. We're using Smooth Cast Onyx Fast. That has a really fast pot life of like 2.5 minutes, so you got to work pretty fast. To get the amount of material that you're going to use for your for the object that you're going to cast, you get this sheet again. It comes in the packaging, and it gives you the specific volume, which allows you to calculate, by mass how much you need of each. Remember, it's a 1-to-1 ratio for this one as well. So the amount that you pour into this cup for part B is the same amount that you have to pour into the other cup for part A.
Once again, we're going to mix each material, pour them in a separate cup, and then mix that as well. And keep in mind you only have 2.5 minute pot life for this material, so you have to stir quickly and pour quickly. Remember, once we glued those 2 dowel pins on to have an air hole and a pour hole, so make sure you're pouring into one hole and don't let it come above the air hole afterwards. So now, once you've given your resin time to set, you're going to come in here, disassemble your box, and then pull apart the 2-part mold. So we're going to start with this bottom piece. You slowly pull it out. And then next, what you have to make sure of is that you've cleared out enough of these chips so that you can slide the bore hole through. Now, once you've got your part out, we're going to begin post-processing. So the next step is post-processing. So usually what we do is get a Dremel with a sanding tip and then sand down all of the extrusions that end up coming out of the part. Okay, so once your part is complete, it should look something like this.